when entering a financing deal. So I'll break that into two components. Let's first talk about an equity investment in which we have an owner coming in with a long-term position. In an equity position, you need to really think about the way into the company. So you're out soliciting investors to join your partnership, become part of your company, be involved with you for a period of time. So there's a lot of definition and time spent explaining how we will set up that relationship. It's equally important to think about the way out, because there may be events that cause goals and objectives to no longer be aligned. So it's important to have a mechanism in place. So the risks on an equity transaction are that the owner is locked in, has given up flexibility, does not have the ability to maybe accept other investors, maybe change its business plan. But however, that's measured against the opportunity created by the new funds that have been received from the investor. So again, it's constantly a balancing act. What one perceives as risk, others sees as opportunity. And so at some point through that whole process, you'll come to a balanced view on that will get, again, alignment of objectives and goals is the key. When it comes to debt financing, in which someone is lending you money, and again, as I said a little bit earlier in one of the interviews, a debt lender is really just interested in two things. One, the ability to repay the money that I loaned you, and as well as whatever interest rate that I may be charging you. That's just typically how a debt instrument is set up, principal plus interest. In that aspect, they are looking for hard security, so physical security. So if you have if you have assets, building, equipment, they may ask for that as security. Debt lenders in the world of security have what's called typically take first right. That means that if in the event that things go poorly and for some reason the company is wound up, the debt lenders really look at it from that perspective. If things went absolutely as poorly as possible, could I be covered? If I'm not, then what extra security do I need? And that may be in the form of the assets, or it may ask the entrepreneur to personally guarantee a certain amount of that loan they've given to them. During the receipt of debt and equity financing, the entrepreneur's interest is protected in, I'll call it the details of the various contract. So there are terms and conditions that are buried within each of those agreements. There are things such as covenants. A covenant is something that the company or maybe the individual makes, and if the covenant is broken, the important thing about a covenant is that if for some reason it's broken, then it automatically will give some fairly strong rights and privileges to the lender or investor. So we often, working with entrepreneurs, will spend a lot of time to pay attention to the covenants. There may be only one or two, and work with the entrepreneur, the lender, or investor to set a series of covenants that, again, balances the interests of the lender or investor with the ability of the company to go ahead and perform what its objectives are, and knowing that their business is not a static event and changes will occur. So try and set those in some method that we don't inadvertently cause an undue event within it. The entrepreneur's interests are also protected during this process, but I'll roll it back at the beginning because hopefully you've been able to secure investment or financing from an organization who's aligned with your goals and objectives, and that's typically the most important way to protect yourself. Deloitte is a large international company. We've got offices around the world. We've got various industry expertise. The startup stage or the entrepreneurial stage is very, very important to Deloitte. We consider ourselves entrepreneurial. I think a two-person entrepreneurial organization would look at us and say, I don't believe you're entrepreneurial, but that's just a matter of size. So we typically like to work with entrepreneurs from the very beginning, at the date that they come up with the idea, they're starting to work through their business plan, and then as they evolve their business model, we would then tap into our various resources. So no question at the early stage, we definitely assist companies. In those stages, the key questions that companies come to us for relate to cash flow, sources of cash, ways that I can generate cash from my existing business. And so two areas that we spend a lot of time in that stage is what's known as scientific research and experimental development tax credits. It's a government tax credit program in Canada, but 80 to 90% of the companies that we've run into are eligible. It's a fairly lucrative program, but it's an entitlement to companies. It's sitting there to be used for the benefit of stimulating companies. The other is we'll often advise companies around the structure of their equity or debt transaction and helping them arrive at that balanced view. We like to bring an objective view to the table, and have been successful in trying to bring those two views of an investor lender with the owner. If there's an alignment, maybe help bridge that and have both parties land at something that will be to everyone's benefit. As a company moves out of the early stage and starts to evolve and move up in terms of the size and scope and scale of its companies, its operations, most of the companies we work with will eventually have an international component. They may be based in whichever home city that our Deloitte office is, but typically their markets or their employees or their partners, business partners, are located outside of that city, town, province, state, country. And that's where we usually tap into our global network to help facilitate things such as meetings within organizations in other countries. Maybe it's some knowledge of a company that they're dealing with in those on an international basis, and through our network we're able to make some phone calls or some emails and gather some information to help maybe cut down on some time and effort from them. Our traditional services that many would think of Deloitte is audit and accounting assistance and tax compliance, and in today's world there's a concept of international financial reporting standards throughout Europe being adopted in North America. So again, those are some areas we also assist as companies move up. We like to think that if we have the Deloitte brand it's a world-class brand, and we think it can help them as companies move into other areas. So the Propel Accelerator program, again, is geared directly at entrepreneurial spirit, early stage companies that many people and organizations would not be that interested in, but we believe personally and as a company that's the backbone of our economy, our future economy. So we like to invest our time and energy in assisting those companies. We get two benefits from it. One, we get just personal satisfaction in terms of help to various entrepreneurs. Meeting different organizations and people, it brings perspectives, and in my experience, the more perspectives you can expose yourself to, the better a decision you'll make. Doesn't mean you'll adopt any one particular perspective, but over time you may pick and choose pieces of that. In that particular area, we've kind of committed in the short term to three areas of assistance. First, we will help with any of their compliance around audit, what's called audit and accounting, or tax issues, income tax issues. So we do provide that specific assistance. The second is we do commit and provide scientific research and experimental development assistance. That one again is very well received because that program leads the company into money from the federal government through an existing program. And the third area, again, if I put it in the broad base of structuring their investment or debt financing, we provide some oversight and advice on is the paper that they're looking at or the transaction they're about to sign, is it within the confines of the marketplace? i.e., are they receiving a fair, good, excellent, poor deal relative to what we as Deloitte are seeing as well other clients receive? Are there terms and conditions in there that they should be nervous of? So we try to focus on, again, areas that may be of risk to the owner and flag those for them and maybe offer some suggestions on how they could mitigate those risks. All with the idea of how can we set a platform, help them establish a platform that allows them to go and successfully be in a position to successfully execute their business plan and hopefully reach their goals and objectives.